Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary, a light-hearted podcast on a serious subject. Every 2 weeks we look back through true crime stories to discuss an event that took place on this week in history. I'm your host Mark Decana, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello.
So the date we're looking at in this episode is the 18th of December, 1812. And in 1912, the year of...
What? You just said 1812.
In 1812, 1912...
There's no need to make him make overtures.
in the 18th of December, 1912...
Oh, sorry. Right, okay.
An amateur archaeologist, name of Charles Dawson, announced at a meeting of the Geological Society of London that workmen at a gravel pit in Piltdown had discovered fragments of a skull that he now believed were from the missing link in the evolutionary chain.
Wow.
Part man, part ape.
Yeah, I'd be like, really? If I was his boss or whatever. I'd be like, no, you haven't. So hang on, quarry?
Yes.
It seems a bit rocky to me.
If it's going to be millions of years old, it would be rock.
Oh, right. Is that what we're suggesting? Millions of years old?
Missing link would be a link between
of course.
humans and apes, which would need to be...
Oh, blimey. Right, okay. I didn't think... For some reason, I thought it was thousands of years. I don't mean that's the missing link. It only happened 1,000 years.
You're probably talking somewhere between 1 million and 1,000. It's probably like hundreds of thousands of years.
Wow.
Yeah, modern human has only been around for about 200,000 years.
Yeah.
So, yes.
201,000 years.
Yeah, in that region.
The thing that draws my suspicion immediately is that an amateur archaeologist is claiming a missing link, and that doesn't seem to... Like, just the phrase missing link doesn't seem to mean that he understands how...
Sure, yeah.
Evolution works. It's a massive...
Ape.
Spreading, meandering web of links. Yeah. There's no one link that joins everything together.
Ape, some bloke who was neither that nor that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Well, this is the argument that's been raging forever.
Sure, yeah.
Is that, there must be a missing link because we've got, like, ape men.
We've still got
apes, and we've got
men.
Modern men.
Yeah.
So there must be something that joins them. But in fact, they were both probably descended from a communal ancestor from before. They're not actually linked together.
Why are we talking about this? Because a bloke finding an old bloke in
finding an old bloke
in the ground.
Yeah,
that isn't the crime, is it?
No, it isn't. And spoiler alert.
Or is it? Yes.
Well, it turns out that the skull that had been discovered and that Charles Dawson had put forward as being this missing link character was actually a fraud. And looks like it was Dawson himself to convince the world that he should be like a fellow of the society and a famous...
Right, okay. So it was all made up.
He made it all up.
This is the invention of a sinister and disordered mind. A mind clamoring for attention. A mind reaching higher and higher above its station and beyond its reach.
What was the other body you mentioned?
Tollund.
Tollund is real.
How many men do we know? Pilt.
Yeah.
Toll. Peat.
They're all
Bog.
Peat Bog.
Who's Peat Bog?
Well, there was one Peat Bog man, and then they found several, so they all got their individual names.
Sorry, so Peat Bog isn't Tollund.
No, he's a folk singer from the late 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I got it. Humor, right?
It's not another word for Tollund, is it?
Tollund was a peat bag.
I mean, they're all peat, or are they?
And then there was the Iceman, whose willy got stolen.
What are you talking about?
What?
I'm sorry, is that funny? Are you stand-up comic? Is that what you do now?
Is that a dream you've had?
No, there was a man found, I forget where it was, I think it was on the steps. Yeah, he found it in the ice. And they think, well, I don't know.
Are you thinking of John Carpenter's The Thing?
No.
Ice is...
Cold water.
Probably better than peat to be cryogenically or encapsulated in time, do you reckon? Because do you remember, who was that Everest explorer? Not Shackleton.
Ranulph Fiennes.
No.
Edmund Hillary?
No, because he came down and told us all about it, didn't he?
Are you asking who died on Everest?
Yeah.
This is like 10 people a year die on it.
George Mallory. He was found, well, they think it was him, perfectly intact still wearing his tweeds because snow or ice had shifted because of weather and wind and whatever. But peat is a brilliant encapsulator of humans, or anything, frankly, isn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't imagine it would be, naturally, just like, because water is one of the classic things you need to decay things.
Too moist.
Yeah. You'd think it'd just it'd be full of bacteria, full of creatures.
Absolutely, and they'd just eat you in a week.
I think is it because of density?
Perhaps, yeah. Perhaps it's the frequency of material laid down on top of you. I don't know.
I mean, this is an expert conversation, isn't it?
Well,
Three people who've got no idea
if we can't speculate randomly on things, why are we here?
I mean, you're right, though. How on earth is it's ridiculous.
There must be some quality that it has.
If you're in soil, just normal soil,
yeah,
you just get eaten.
Yeah.
If you're in water, you would just get eaten, or you just decay.
Yeah.
And is peat
there must be something
wet soil?
Yeah, let's call it that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
Well, it's wet soil that doesn't dry out.
That's mud, isn't it?
Yeah, mud.
There must be some magical difference between mud and peat. Something we're missing.
Welcome to the great peat mud debate.
The answer is peat.
What is wet mud?
The Iceman was Ötzi.
Ötzi?
Yeah, do you remember him? He was found between France and Italy in the ice, and he's 3,500 to 4,500 years ago that he died.
Wow.
So he's been in the freezer since then. But he was killed. So he was stabbed. There was an arrowhead in his shoulder, so they think that he was at least being hunted.
That would sound like, a battle.
Yeah, potentially.
Rather than a man being hunted.
So when was Tollund Man much later? Found much later? I don't mean fell into the ground later.
So he was found in 1950.
Oh.
So a bit later.
Wasn't then.
We learned both of these at the same time.
Yes, we did, yeah.
We learned about these in school.
Now, the only thing I would say is that I don't think I learnt that Piltdown Man was a fraud. I just learnt about peat preserving people.
We would have probably learnt about him at the same time that we had learnt about the Piltdown Man, who was found in 1984.
Okay.
So you'd have dug up, so to speak.
Was that... Are we talking in the same... in some peat?
Yes.
Right, okay. Why is he called Lindo?
I think that was where he was found. Same as Piltdown was found in Piltdown.
So where's Lindo?
Near Winslow in Cheshire.
Right, okay.
And Tollund Man was found in Denmark.
Oh, was he?
In the Jutland Peninsula.
Right.
So what Tollund Man was, he was preserved in a peat bog.
He was.
He was found in 1950, and he would have died around 400 BC. And
wow.
I think, if I remember rightly, wasn't he executed or something?
I remember.
He was hanged. He had the noose around his neck.
Oh, really? Well,
was still the rope.
He was totally intact, though, wasn't he?
He was completely intact, and he still had the rope was still there. I think there was another body found,
and he was ridiculously well preserved.
Yeah,
he was quite kind of fetal.
Yes, that's
positioned and small. Probably was small. They were small.
They all were small, didn't they?
They were all small.
They were all little back then.
But his skin and stuff was just
and hair.
Oh my god! Yeah.
And the fabric of his shoes as well.
Really. His watch,
his digital watch,
ticking. Peat tends to be rather coarse and fibrous. Mud tends to be fine-grained and more colloidal.
Colloidal.
And more decomposed and behaves more like inorganic soils or something.
Yeah. So I was going to say, peat is more like if you had grass and it's compacted. It's like organic material. Whereas,
you're right. Yeah.
Whereas mud is more like tiny little rocks and sand, and so it's
you're right. Peat
and I think because they've got, if you think of it as like rocks and sand, there's lots of space in between them. Living things can move between it, however microscopic they might be. Whereas compacted plant matter, there is no space, so it's that density that things can't pass through it so much. I think that's loosely.
I still don't understand why.
Well, it just means that microbes and things.
You don't get eaten.
Well, because it keeps out all the microbes and stuff.
Well, even I mean, that
so
suggests
compacted,
it's incredibly compact. But anyway,
yeah.
Peat's good for the garden, isn't it?
So so very, very rich in nutrients.
Organic. Yeah. Well, that's the great peat debate is resoundingly resolved.
Great peat debate. Anyway, what are we talking about?
With so many men around, it's very easy to get distracted. I mean, confused.
Well, Piltdown Man, by contrast, was not preserved beautifully in a peat bog.
Right, yes, of course.
So what they had was bones, basically. They had a skull, and apparently when they were originally digging it out, they thought the skull was a fossilised coconut.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason that the skull that was presented to the society was so smashed up was because
it had hair on the top, a lovely, meaty, delicious insides.
They thought, because what they'd done is they basically just smashed it up at the sink, which is why, a fossilised coconut, and then whack it with a shovel, kind of thing, break it up. Yeah.
Well, that was the story.
That was the story, yeah.
But actually, he had removed any part of the skull that could have been aged.
Yeah, well, what he actually had was a piece of human skull, which could have come from the pit, but probably came from his house. Then he added to that, they had a piece of a jawbone and some teeth and some bits and some primitive tools, which is how they made the leap that obviously this was a tool-using hominid.
Yep.
But as we now know, it was falsified. So what happened was it was actual human skull, but it was very, very, a lot more recent. It wasn't like 500,000 years old.
Strangely enough.
And it had been artificially aged.
Yeah. How'd you do that?
Boil it in tea, like you do a pirate map.
Yeah. Put it in some Coca-Cola. How do you do that? Do you just put it outside?
Just basically stained using.
And you knock off any bit that can be aged. So none of the eye socket, none of the cheekbone, none of the bit that would connect to the spine, because all that stuff you can age those just by looking at the shape of them and the development of humans.
But so why those specific?
Because you can age them. Because like in an ape, for example, the cheekbone's in a totally different position, and so the eye socket's a different form. The nose shape is very different. So you have none of those sort of really identifiable pieces.
Well,
just a fragment of random back of the skull.
Yes, right. Yeah, okay. And you can't have any. I mean, I don't know what dental. There wouldn't have been any problem back then, but you can't have like, and here's his full set of teeth.
Well, that was another tricky thing that he did. The jaw was an orangutan's.
The jaw was that of an orangutan.
Yeah.
Which he'd filed the teeth down so that they look really nice and short and stubby, like a nut grinding human might have done.
Right. Yeah.
I feel I know personally each one of his teeth.
So they had human-like molar teeth, but he didn't file down the canine.
Yep.
Which, of course, means that you can't chew side to side with your molars if your canines are in the way.
Yeah.
So, slight omission there.
And also, well, I suppose we're talking about the missing link, but if it was ridiculously apish in one direction, then it's like it's clearly
it needs to be ambiguous. It needs to look both like an ape and both like a bit of a human. You know.
Yeah, but when you're doing those two things, they have to work together and not in opposition.
Right, okay. Yeah. So there was a mishmash of things.
A mishmash.
Put in a hole.
Of small pieces as well, don't forget. This is not like a whole skull.
Right,
There's a jawbone and a piece of skull.
So it really was a
fragment of jawbone as well, because there was no the end part that would connect to the skull.
Yes,
that was missing, because you can...
The end part.
That bit tells you how it connects and how it moves.
Of course it does, yeah.
So just miss that bit off.
Yeah, the important bits that tell the full story, they're not there. So you can fill in with suppositions.
So it's beautifully ambiguous.
So his goal was to...
self-promotion.
New cool kid, not explorer, archaeologist person on the block who was carried shoulder high through the streets.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, okay.
Pretty much. And he had a career of that, of kind of fluffing himself up and falsifying information. And,
really?
Yeah.
What, before that?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
He'd been doing it all his life, basically.
This is the thing. So everyone's the missing link. And to go, hang on, this bloke's got four.
Right, yes, okay.
He's been forging things. It's bad. Actually, can he be trusted? Well, he has forged before. What?
Right, okay. So it was never. It should never have lasted 5 minutes, the kind of wow factor, because it was like, no, it's in.
I guess with a lot of things like that, people want to believe it.
Yeah, no, I totally am.
You know.
Totally am.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be the same, really.
Yeah.
Because it's not hugely long time before that. It's only, 1859 when the theory of evolution was published.
Mm-hmm.
Darwin's Origins Species came out in 1859. So
to people who
and he's
had
called
books.
Charles.
And he's Charles, so,
Also to people who had access to books, and meaning, it wasn't exactly a global
Yeah, true enough.
thought, was it?
So these are a bunch of academics who have recently been getting, in recent decades, have been getting excited about evolution, and then someone says, "Oh, I've just unearthed this thing that might be like one of the biggest discoveries in paleoarchaeology."
As you say, it's not like there's a load of monkeys, there's man, and there's the thing that connects them. It's bloody thousands of things, hundreds of over 100 million years, or whatever.
And all of
half man.
There he is.
It's not like the Fiji mermaid, half a monkey sewn to half a fish. It's like there he is, half and half. That's it.
Yeah,
monkey on the left.
Yeah, exactly.
Human on the right.
Half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend.
Yeah, there is no sort of straight line between modern human and the nearest common ancestor. There's
at all.
No.
It's not like son, father, grandfather. There he is. There's
exactly.
Ian, the dad.
Ian.
We're genetically related to trees, but we're not likely to dig up an ancestor with branchy arms.
I've got 2 wooden legs and real feet.
Yeah.
And every autumn, all my hair falls out.
Our early ancestors were rooted to the spot before.
It barely went anywhere.
Yeah, my granddaddy didn't get out much.
Hello, my name's Mark Decano and I host the Comedy in a Nutshell podcast, in which I talk with those in and around the comedy circuit, and most especially the comedians, about what comedy means to them.
Simon Amstel plus Lena Dunham plus Mr. Blobby. I thought that would be a good combo.
Every gig you get is somebody else not getting a gig.
I've had people pull out a notepad and I've been like, oh no, thank you.
You are a jester and you're here to bring light relief to people's lives.
Somebody at the end was like, oh my God, she's dirty. And I was like, thank you very much.
My boyfriend says he feels like he has to tread very carefully because he was like, I know that everything has the potential to become material.
I can now give to people and they definitely in that moment are having a good time.
So if you want to know more about what comedy means to the people at its heart, then hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Comedy in a Nutshell, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Fringe, baby!
So, did it get traction, basically? Was it like, oh my God, oh, hang on? Or was it, this bloke's an idiot, why are we even giving it column inches?
Both.
Right.
So, number one, yes, I mean, it's hugely got traction. Everyone was like, this has got to be real.
Because people wanted to. I would say that part of time, the tens and the... Oh, hang on, are we talking about, what did you say, 1912?
Yeah.
The tens and a bit of the 20s. I would say that's quite a big explorer era.
Sure. Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, massively.
The only thing, I know it's later, but like Howard Carter and...
that was 10 years later. But,
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
but do you know what I mean? Time. People were like finding things a lot. Weren't they?
Oh yeah, it was huge. It was the age of exploration and discovery.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, like I said, Darwin was 1859, so this is 50 years
basically
odd later, and Carter was 10 years after that. But it's not like they didn't do anything. It's not like Carter didn't do anything before 1920.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all doing discovery and exploration,
and some of them are getting world famous and rich, and because it's an incredible discovery. So,
but you're talking about
he wanted a piece of that, basically.
Yeah. You got there's the struggle for Africa has been going on. This is a late Victorian, so everyone's exploring Africa. You've got Antarctic race has been going on.
Absolutely.
So it's huge. This
of
idea.
Of course, that was exactly then. Was it exactly then? It wasn't much later, basically.
So Scott and Amundsen in the Antarctic was the same year, beginning of the year, March 12.
Yes, and Shackleton was. Well, around that time, but like 3 years before was his famous expeditions, at least. I mean, we're just naming kind of English explorers that we know, but obviously there's be bloody loads of others. But
yeah,
Everyone was looking for something, weren't they?
Digging it
Or
up.
trying to get to places as well. Do you want to go to the cold bit that no one knows about or goes to? Yeah, right.
Go to the cold bit, the remote bit,
Yeah, exactly.
the jungly bit, and then dig stuff up.
Right, so
March
we're
March
right
9th.
in the depths of oh, look what I've found. 100% as it's now known.
the age of ooh, look what I found. As it's known in paleoanthropological circles, it's called that.
In the age of wonder.
So your bit of skull,
Yes.
odd jawbone, and primitive tools.
Was it human skull and orangutan jaw?
It was orangutan jaw, yeah, human skull. But it was old skull, so it was a skull of a small-brained hominid, humanoid.
Oh, right. Oh, so it wasn't old.
It wasn't like it didn't dig up his grandmother and use that.
Yes, right, okay. Yeah.
But it was old, but it wasn't. It was like a bit old, but not 500,000 years.
So to be fair to him, he got some human skull and he got monkey jaw.
Yeah.
So he was trying to manufacture.
He did leave the house. But that's
Well,
as
my
far
point
as
is, so far we're 50% of each.
Yeah.
Which is technically what he was meant to find anyway. But
That's the standard sort of act that most fraudsters make, is they'll get something old and make it a bit older.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Older? You mean like Shelley Winters older or Shirley MacLaine older?
So at this Geological Society meeting where this missing link was
behold.
announced,
The missing link. Curtains go.
Yeah.
There's a bit of bone.
Oh yeah. It's not like nothing more than that.
Two small bits of rubble.
Yeah, there's a couple of rocks on,
And all the
podium.
The large sideburned men in top hats all went. Huh? You what?
Yes, everyone got very excited. It was named
Piltdown Man.
No, Piltdown Man is what we call it. The Latin name for Piltdown Man is Eoanthropus Dawsoni.
Right. Okay.
Named after Dawson. Means Dawson's Dawn Man.
Wow, he would have loved that.
Oh yeah,
of course he would.
Not only
would have been
have
rubbing his ego all the way home.
Not only have I been named, they've done it in Latin.
That's standard science.
Well, I know, but
It's got to get that in.
Yeah,
it's just better. So they're all standing there in there, holding their pipes and
twirling their moustaches.
Yes, and would they?
With
wouldn't wear a ruff,
with no free hand to applaud.
So some of them open mouthed, some of them like, oh, get a load of Dorsonlicus. But initially, it was good publicity, was it?
Oh yeah, it was huge, and because everyone, obviously, the announcement of such a discovery meant that everyone suddenly had this renewed interest in this evolutionary theory
and archaeology and
Because don't forget, I mean, the story about evolution, that was groundbreaking in scientific communities.
Sure, yeah.
Everyone else was like, huh?
You what?
What are you talking about?
The
possibility of finding early man in your back garden was like, oh, wow.
Was possible.
So naturally, and again, the age of discovery and everything else. But like you said, when we started, when we began this ep, you said my response would be,
yeah.
Well, that response was...
and that's me as an idiot, having no clue about anything. Really?
But that response also came out.
Okay, good, yeah.
There's lots of people who sort of went, I don't think that's right.
Sure, that's a thing.
Stop applauding! It's a fake!
Yes. Bit of a skull, missing link, done. Let's move on. Don't look at it.
So some of them were, come off it, mate.
We need more information.
Okay.
But I mean, even now we still have whole hominid species which are derived from a single finger bone.
As I say, he was an amateur archaeologist. He had founded or co-founded the Hastings and St Leonard's Museum Association, which is basically a bunch of mates who bring in old rocks they found.
Yeah,
so it's basically like the detectives.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Putting it on the finds table.
Finds so, yeah. Found a rock, bit of an old bone, and the missing link.
And tomorrow night let's do a talk about buttons.
Yeah.
He was named by the Sussex Daily News as the Wizard of Sussex because he had this knack for discovery.
I knew you were going to say that. An uncanny knack of finding. Yeah.
He found Roman statues.
Weren't they cast in a metal that the Romans didn't use as well?
Exactly right. No. So a unique discovery. Roman statues.
Yeah, sure.
He found a Neolithic axe and a timber boat. All of these turned out to be questionable at best.
Just an axe and a boat.
Yeah. Neolithic axe. Looks very much like a modern axe. But it's stained with tea.
Slightly browner.
Yeah. He did all sorts of things. He dug under Hastings Castle. Basically, he got a lot of support because he found a lot of stuff. So he was given provision to find more of his amazing discoveries.
Of course, yeah, because he found stuff. I mean,
And he became a fellow of the Geological Society and a fellow of the Society.
Right, okay, so that's what... ultimately, that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
I've been nominated for membership in the National Geographic Society.
He got to get the recognition he not necessarily deserved.
Exactly. He's a fellow of these societies. He didn't have a university degray, but he had letters after his name because he was a fellow of all these places.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So they're all like throwing honours and because of his
people want to honour, like people want to bring into their fold someone else who has honours.
Yeah, sure.
So you honour them. And it becomes this snowball effect
And
that he gets loads of honours.
By association,
then his honours become your honours.
Yeah,
exactly.
And his embarrassment, your embarrassment.
So the discovery of the find of 1912 of Piltdown Man, obviously that caused quite a hoo-ha. So one of the fellows of the society, Arthur Woodward, keeper of geology, he went down to the quarry with Dawson to see if they could find more
Let's
bits
go and
of
have a
the
look,
skull.
find some more stuff.
Yeah.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
So they spent 4
It's only
months.
a little bit about bone. There must be some more.
There must be some more,
Sure,
presumably.
yeah.
So they went down and they were digging and searching for 4 months.
4 months. Yep.
And they did find some more fragments. I say they. Only Dawson ever found anything.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I imagine him like in The Great Escape, having a hole in his pocket and just dropping it, falling out the bottom of his trousers as he walks fast.
And you press it into the ground.
Yeah. So he always found them, but he never found them in the spaces where they were digging. He always found them in the spoil, you know.
Yeah, obviously.
So, you missed this.
And he was always on his own when he found them.
He was always on his own.
Of course he was.
And he was always present when any found them.
And by the way, it wasn't everyone apart from him was an expert.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yeah.
Let's all go down and bring all our...
Yeah, well, it was his dig. The quarry was just people working in a quarry like normal.
Okay,
it was his find, inverted commas, if you like. And he was an amateur, but all the people that he was reporting to were experts. And Arthur Woodward was an expert.
Now, I would have... If I was positioning stuff, I would have positioned stuff so that they found it.
Absolutely.
Now we're back to the detectorists again. Remember when he found gold and he had to hide the gold so he could find it later? And then he forgot where he hid it.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, he hadn't watched any of these films or TV shows.
No.
So he didn't. So...
And Netflix wasn't what it is then.
No, back then it was just a DVD mail order.
In the back of magazines.
In the back of magazines. Yeah. Although some people, like I say, said, yep, this is brilliant, this has got to be legit, this is Homo Piltdownensis.
Sure.
You know, Otto Schurtensack, who was a fossil finder, he said it was the best evidence that they had.
Really?
for the ancestors.
Well, there being no other evidence yet.
However, some people, like David Wharton of King's College, he said in 1913, so like within the year, said this is an ape's jaw and a human skull.
You're a phony!
And a French paleontologist said the same thing a couple of years later. So no,
l'homme.
Ici l'homme, ici le sage. There you go.
Ouais. That's
And
exactly what he would have said.
Yeah.
This guy's a great big phony!
And it was in 1923 that a man named Franz Wienreich, he examined the remains and he said, tell you what this is an orangutan jaw with the teeth filed down.
Yeah, right.
Bang on.
Bang on, mate.
I once saw a similar case in Zurich.
Oh?
Also fake.
Well, that was 10 years later. Is that how long it... Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there was a little section of time where digging things probably didn't happen during the war, but
yeah,
you didn't need to dig during the war.
It got blown out.
Yeah. So I would imagine things were put on hold. But are we still 1923? We're still like going. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh God. What the hell? Wow. And by then, with various Tutankhamun discoveries, everyone's like, they probably still want to believe, don't they?
Oh yeah,
A load
absolutely.
of people.
Absolutely.
I can't believe it. We've dug up a boy who's got a long gold chin. Can't believe it. Tutankhamun. No, honestly, we have. Aren't we?
Well, the thing is, before Wiedenreich's hypothesis, you have another Piltdown find in Piltdown 2. So 1915, about 3,000 metres, a couple of miles from the original discovery, Dawson, of course, found some more fragments.
Of course he did.
And of course, the second discovery only supports.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, he shouldn't.
One,
but all right.
You can question the veracity of one discovery, but two, wow, there you go. You see?
Here's his wife.
I'm just going to wander over here. Don't look. I'm going to dig over here randomly.
Here they are.
I'm going to go down the road a bit. Look, I found another bit.
Right, okay.
No more questions. Don't ask any more questions. That's top secret, that is.
So
Piltdown is a tiny little place as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
So he must have deliberately chosen to find it in Piltdown. Because, I mean, 2 miles is practically the entire width of Piltdown.
Yeah, well, he never actually told anyone else where the second location was, including the man he was digging with.
So, what do you mean? He just provided the evidence?
He just said, I
So
found
what did
this.
he do? Blindfold him, spin him round 3 times and then say...
You dig here, I'm going to just randomly go a couple of miles down the road, and then, I found this. Where? Just down the road.
Down the road.
Just down the road. Should we go and dig it some more? No.
There's no need for you to know the location.
Exactly. I mean,
Trust me, I'm a renowned archaeologist.
Yeah.
Okay.
For our eyes, it's ridiculous, but obviously at the time, you're just like going, oh,
So what?
great.
Right, so
You know
that
what
was
you're
the
talking
reaction, was it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
So that makes the first one legit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incomprehensible now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because you'd have... I mean, Time Team would descend...
What you said about this whole thing, like glory by association, you know, like, so Woodward's come in on this thing, partly to lend his weight as head of geology to the discovery,
Yeah,
but also
of course, yeah.
that makes him co-discoverer,
Yeah.
if you like. He now gets
that's
in.
true. Yeah.
So don't forget that
That's
he
true.
wants this to be real as much as anybody.
Yeah.
And so Dawson himself, he died in 1916.
Did he?
He died very young, actually. He died at the age of 52 from a vitamin B12 deficiency.
Did Dawson croak?
He did.
Yeah. So it's not long after he found
Not
it, really.
long after the two.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
Who died
4
in
years
1916?
later.
Dawson,
Well, hang on. What?
the
So
original discoverer.
when? Oh, I'm getting 1923.
No, that was someone saying.
Someone
that this
else. By the way, this is rubbish.
rubbish.
So when did he find Piltdown 2?
In 1915.
Right.
So the original discovery in 1912, and everyone's going, oh, this is great, or
Yeah,
not.
right,
And then in 1915, finds, inverted commas, more bits.
He didn't die in the war, did he?
No.
Just okay.
But Woodward, this co-digging geologist expert,
Kept it.
he's like
Going.
going, I think I'll probably know where these extra bits were found as well, because, I was there.
Right.
2 miles away, but I know where he was digging. I know all about it. He's now absorbing basically
Propaganda.
Dawson's Dawson's nonsense and making it his own.
All right now. Which one of you fellows has got my bone?
So in 1921, 2 years before Wiedenreich says it's a orangutan bone, 1921, Henry Osborne, who's president of the American Museum of Natural History, he examined both the finds, Piltdown and the second one in Sheffield Park, and says these 2 bits of bone, this jaw and this skull, without question, are from the same pre-human.
Right.
They are without question.
You're the fake. We believe in what we're doing.
Well, he said it, so therefore.
There you go. So it's actually.
I hear so they don't know where, but he still didn't know where he found the second. Bit.
No.
I hereby name the area where he found in this rocky backwater, Dawson's Creek. Right, so that kind of didn't help, did it?
No, exactly. Like I say, if you find one human skull and 8 bone together, that's fine. But you find 2 human skulls with 8 bones,
Well, I know, but
That's proof, isn't it?
No, but I'm talking about the largely kind of bloke who makes up things, an amateur explorer who makes up things, who is now dead. By the way, I'm the head of whatever geological society, and it's definitely true. Then that starts to change everything, doesn't it, for people's opinion?
Yeah.
So is it real?
1938, there was a stone memorial erected on the site saying, "Here was found."
Oh, God.
That's a dedication
So
to
we're
where it was found.
So how much later is that? 25 years later. So we still haven't got this is a load of rubbish.
Yeah, we have had people since within a year
saying
from discovery saying, "I don't think this is right."
Sure, yeah.
Then you've had 1923 saying, "This is clearly an orangutan."
Yeah, I mean that was absolutely bang on. Clearly, this is an orangutan's jaw with the teeth filed down, and a modern hominid skull.
And yet, 15 years
exactly
later,
what it was.
15 years after that, they erected a memorial to point out the spot where they discovered the fossil skull of Piltdown Man.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a great big phony, you know that?
Anyway.
It's not until the 40s or 50s that it was really...
There was probably another gap for another war.
There was, big war gap there.
Yeah.
And then Time magazine in November of 1953...
Wow. 40 years later.
Reported that it was a forgery, showing that actually it was three species, that the skull was human, probably medieval, the jawbone was orangutan, and the teeth were from a chimpanzee.
Right.
They were fake? Of course they were fake!
Wow.
And they'd actually been stained, the bones, with a solution of iron and chromic acid to make it look really old.
Okay.
But basically stained.
Yeah.
Because at this point they were able to now look, they had like electron microscopes and things like that.
Sure.
So they could now actually see the file marks on the teeth.
Well, in the 40s, the fluorine test was proposed, and then I think that was done in the early 50s.
The fluorine test was proposed in 1943.
That's right.
But I think it wasn't carried out until the 50s.
And what ultimately is the fluorine test?
The groundwater has fluorine ions in it. The fluorine absorption tells you how long it's been in the ground.
Okay.
So the amount of time something has been underground will tell you how much fluorine ions it has absorbed.
And is it measured in thousands of years, or could they say 5 minutes? Recently put there.
Thursday at 2:20 in the afternoon.
Because that's what it was, basically. It would have had hardly any in them, sure.
Well, they would be able to tell you hadn't been in there for 500 years, for sure.
Yes.
I would say, this is recent.
Yesterday.
So, yes, 1953, they used fluorine absorption.
Which clearly, proved that it hadn't been anywhere near the ground.
Yeah.
So is that where the story starts to fall apart?
Yes, but of course, people don't trust modern science.
Well, also, it's had 40 plus years of missing link.
Yeah.
And therefore, in public perception, that means that it's the missing link, basically, isn't it? It would have taken years. I mean, I would argue it hasn't worked in the sense of I thought Piltdown Man and Tollund Man was the same thing. The same kind of discovery. But
I suppose that just kind of demonstrates how infectious bad ideas are.
Yeah, totally.
But obviously, also, don't forget, you've got a lot of bias and prejudice here, because firstly, you've got the scientific community who are basically being humiliated because all the people who stood behind it saying, this is brilliant. Yeah. They're all going to look like proper dickheads.
Of course,
this isn't real.
Yeah, and great grand old organisations being embarrassed. Yeah,
for decades.
Their members have been lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got nationalism big at that time in Europe. So people saying, well, it might not be an old German bloke, but it's probably an old English bloke, because we've got racial differences, so the skull might not look the same to Wiesenreich as a 500,000-year-old German guy. But
what would he know about good British skulls?
Good British skulls look like.
Okay, yeah. Right, okay.
There was it's probably a 500,000-year-old woman, because they would have had smaller skulls and big mouths, and because they talk and don't think. Really? Nag, nag, nag. It's a skull of a nagging woman.
it's 500,000 years old.
Yeah, because that's the genetics of the femur. And then we can turn around and see that's the suffragettes are only going on and on and on about the vote because they've got small brains.
Meaning last week.
Yeah, last week.
Comparing it.
Yeah, that's because that's how they've been bred and how they've evolved. From
the ironically small-minded man.
Yeah, exactly. They've got these are the sorts of prejudices that they would have had around that time.
Sure, yeah.
Indeed, now to some extent. So
humans haven't changed.
We have not changed. It wasn't until 2016 that a specific study actually revealed conclusively what it was and how it had been created.
100 years later.
Yeah.
Wow. 100 years exactly after the fraudster's death.
Yeah.
100 years. Wow. And it said it was true, actually.
It turns out it was right all along. Yeah.
The chances.
But the other thing is we all know, of course, that fossils were buried in the ground by God to test our faith.
Yeah, it's God dicking with us. That's what it is. Yeah.
Quite easily could be a movie on it, isn't it? But clearly not. But
I do have one band called the Piltdown Man.
Is that it? The name of a band?
No,
it's called...
this
you
band,
made that up.
No, this band sounds amazing. So there's a band, American rock band.
Are they a hybrid?
They're half ape, half human. They had some hits. let's call them that. Well, they didn't have any albums. They had some hits, singles. The biggest hit probably was the Brontosaurus Stomp, which came out in August 1960, and that was probably popular because, coincidentally and unrelated in any way, that was the same time that the Flintstones premiered on television.
That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've talked about on this episode, then just Google it or something. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on our website. That's www.truecrimediary.co.uk. Please remember to leave a review on your podcast provider if you can, or you can email us. That's stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk. My thanks to Jed and Roo and to all of you for listening, and we'll see you again on next date in our True Crime Diary.